Google Drive, OneDrive, and Dropbox are not created equal, and the differences might genuinely piss you off. I spent 3 weeks uploading terabytes of data, reading privacy policies that made my lawyer friend wince, and running speed tests that revealed some pretty shocking performance gaps. And look, I have used all of these 3 services for years and extensively. I thought I knew which one was best, but I was wrong. One of these services is reading your files like they're the morning newspaper. Another one works beautifully on Windows but feels broken everywhere else. And the third one had a security breach so massive it exposed 68 million users. And another one 12 years later because apparently they're slow learners. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one deserves your files and which one you should avoid like a sketchy email attachment. So settle in, grab your favorite beverage, in my case it's coffee, and let's get started. When we talk about core cloud storage functionality, all 3 nail the basics. File sync, sharing, offline access, but as usual, the devil is in the details. And when it comes to features, Google Drive is a well-oiled machine, right? Beyond simple file storage, it creates an entire digital workspace for yourself or for your company. Google Drive and Google Workspace work together beautifully, as you might expect. It's really you set it and forget it, and it's not that you're like using separate applications in this case. So I can basically create, edit, and collaborate on documents on a daily basis, and I rarely have to leave the Drive interface. Everything is smoothly integrated together. Now, our publishing team loves commenting in Google Docs. We actually could not live without it. We need like robust, real-time collaboration that just works. Now, our editors constantly need to dig into the version history to check on like who edited what and how documents change from like one state to another. And Google Drive gives us just that. And I also need to mention Google's search algorithm. It really doesn't just look at file names. It can search inside documents, recognize text and images, and even identify objects in photos. So check this out. You can see the word banana on the paper in this photo, right? Because, well, easy. You are human. At least, I hope you're human. But for a machine, it's a bit more of a challenge. Unless, obviously, it's Google, since you can see it found the photo when I simply entered banana in the search bar. So that level of intelligence is really hard to beat. Now, before you think I'm some kind of wizard who writes grocery lists by hand like it's 1995, this was actually a photo my mom sent me. But I mean, the point stands. Google found bananas in, well, sorry mom, pretty illegible handwriting, well, which is honestly kind of terrifying when you think about it. If Google can read your grandmother's or your mother's or your aunt's shopping list, well, what can't it read? That's the question. And don't get me wrong. I mean, Google Drive has some limitations, and depending on who you are, these might be huge. For example, here is a set of photos I uploaded, and, well, they previewed instantly. Boom. Drag and drop, let it upload, and fast and easy previews of my photos. Well, now Google does support a lot of file types, but surprisingly, not as many as its competitors. So if you are an architect working with specialized CAD files, or maybe a video creator with raw video formats, well, no previews for you, unfortunately, so you'll need to download the files or connect to different apps to peek inside them. So that's obviously not ideal in terms of workflow. As a content creator myself, this is why I really spent a long time looking for the best cloud storage for videos. And if you're in the same boat, you can check out what I found in the video up here, basically, right? Because, well, there are a lot of good pointers in that video that help you find the best cloud storage solution. OneDrive takes a little bit of a different approach. Here, it's all about integration with the Microsoft ecosystem. And if you're already using Windows and Office, OneDrive feels like a natural extension of your operating system rather than a separate service. For example, a feature I frequently use is Files on Demand. Just check this out. As long as I basically am connected to the internet, which is pretty much all the time, I can work on my files as if they were downloaded to my device. It is all without taking up any additional space. Much like Google Drive, I can create and edit documents or spreadsheets using the web version. And any changes I make update in my OneDrive account across all of my devices. Now, I can't forget to mention collaboration. As you might expect with Microsoft, it's easy to work with my team on shared documents, often even in real time. If this sounds familiar to working with Google's productivity software, well, that's because it is. However, with some plans, you can download proper apps to your computer, like Hello World, Excel, and PowerPoint. I love you guys. So now, I like the web apps as much as the next person, but the desktop apps have just more bells and whistles that I just love using. Check out the difference between the two. For example, in Excel, I have way more options under the page layout than on the web version. It's like choosing a theme or adjusting the table size, for example. And I also have tabs for adding automations. Call me a little bit old-fashioned, but it reminds me of writing my uni thesis way back in, well, never mind. It was a while ago.
I'm old, Gandalf.
Let me show you something I find really exciting, which is the personal vault. You can access it here, and all the files in it will get an extra layer of security, which is very helpful for sensitive comments. I use it basically all the time for my tax returns and bank statements, but it doesn't replace something with proper client-side encryption. Now, OneDrive is definitely not a perfect product, especially if you're not fully invested in the Microsoft ecosystem. If I'm not using Word or PowerPoint, OneDrive feels like it can't be replaced by any other cloud storage. And compared to Google Drive, the file organization and search capabilities feel pretty basic. And I tried searching bananas and knowing the same pic of my nan's shopping list was in there. And if OneDrive could give me a blank stare, well, it kind of would have, because nothing appeared essentially. And finally, Dropbox has always been the minimalist of the group, but that doesn't mean it lacks sophistication. The approach here is clearly less is more, but what they do offer is executed exceptionally well. Dropbox is like that friend who's really good at one thing and just refuses to branch out. No thanks, I don't need to be a Swiss Army knife. I'm like perfectly happy where I am, and I just like to be a really, really good knife, right? And honestly, I respect that. And in a world where every app now wants to be everything, Dropbox is just here to sync your files, and it looks pretty good doing it. The Smart Sync feature is similar to OneDrive's Files on Demand, but it somehow feels more intuitive. I can click on the folder icon, like so, and see the entire file tree just there. And then I simply choose the folders I want on the device I'm using, and the rest won't take up any disk space. So if you are a data hoarder or you have limited space, now this is really a godsend. Another feature I quite like is Dropbox Paper. It's a collaboration tool, much like Microsoft Word or Google Docs. And to be honest, I can't really say it replaces either one of them, but if Dropbox is your thing and you don't like to be switching apps or services, Paper is a solid tool. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I want to show you what's great about the file organization. I can choose any folder and set up automatic rules. How great is that? Now, automatically, essentially extract archives after uploading, easy. Converting file formats or automatically sorting files, it's not really a problem. So a great example of this is photo organization. I use several different devices to snap pictures and shoot my videos, obviously. My phone, my mirrorless camera, the video cameras I'm shooting with right now, obviously they're shooting these videos. But when all of those photos and videos are basically automatically uploaded, well, it usually gets all jumbled together, right? If you don't have a good organization system or if you deal with Dropbox's automations. And with Dropbox, I can create a rule that renames any photo or video I upload to include the name of the device I used to capture it. And that is pretty neat. Well, you know what isn't neat? The fact that almost 99% of viewers who watch my videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So, if you're enjoying this video and you don't want to miss the next one, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Well, anyway, back to Dropbox. Another feature I like is file tagging. First of all, I didn't think much of it initially, but once I started using it, wow. Does it make a difference? I choose any file, add a tag, and then I can search my files using those tags. I can even search tags using text. It's really great. Okay, do you use Zapier, Slack, or maybe Canva? Well, you'll love that Dropbox integrates with these and hundreds of other apps. Some of them take a little bit of setup, but once you get it going, it really flies. In some ways, I feel like Dropbox is staying in its lane maybe almost too much. I mean, Google and Microsoft are honing their systems constantly, but Dropbox seems happy to maybe perfect the traditional file storage model. And this isn't necessarily bad, but it means you're not getting the same level of innovation or ecosystem integration. Google Drive wins the features category in my book. Well, why do you ask? It's all about search. You see, in general, you could say in business and personal life, I'm a microwave. I'm not a slow cooker. I want my files fast and ready to go, right? Plus, it helps my teams stay productive. And that's also a win for me, right? Second and third, well, OneDrive. The answer is if you're already in the Microsoft ecosystem, obviously, and then Dropbox because, well, it's just really good at file syncing. All right, let's talk about what it's like using these apps day in and day out, because the best features in the world don't matter if user experience sucks, right? Let's take a look at Google Drive. I like how it's super clean and consistent with other Google services. Google calls it material design. I simply call it, well, easy to use, pleasing to the eye, well, whatever you want to call it. For me, the web interface is very responsive and, well, it almost feels like using a desktop app. I can easily create a new Google Doc or so when I right-click in my Drive, I can easily connect apps to my account. I also like how logical it is to navigate around the app. Everything just makes sense. And let me show you how this looks. The sidebar organization here is super useful. I can quickly access all of my folders or click this tab to see everything that's been basically shared with me. And the mobile apps are extremely polished, what you're used to from Google, and they integrate very well into the Android ecosystem, which, well, you might know Google develops. Now, you know me, I am not an Android user. I use my iPhone all the time. I think the iOS app is still excellent, file uploads happen quickly in the background and the camera integration for document scanning works well. I can scan an invoice, I can send it off to my accountant, and everything is taken care of automatically. However, Google Drive does have some quirks that can be a little bit frustrating. Let me show you why the sharing interface is powerful, but also a bit dangerous. There are so many permissions and options that I accidentally gave editing rights to anyone with a link, a document containing, let's call it spicy opinions about a client. Fortunately, I caught it 20 minutes later after drying off from a cold sweat, but the document had been already viewed 47 times. Now, if you were one of those 47, let's just pretend it never happened, okay?
Move on! Nothing to see here!
So yeah, maybe Google could make that sharing menu a little less complicated and a little more intuitive. Here's the deal. If you like your software to handhold you into a structure, then Google Drive might not be the answer. It's a very flexible system and doesn't enforce any particular structure. And at least for me, this can lead to some chaotic hierarchies over time, if you know what I mean, right? OneDrive, in some ways, is like two different stories, depending on whether you're using Windows or not. Let me show you exactly what I mean. To me, OneDrive feels like a part of the operating system, and, well, that's just because it is. For example, this is the File Explorer integration, right? It means you really never have to think about where your files are stored. They're just there when you need them. And you have a sync status indicator that's also pretty clear in what it does. So you know when your files are uploaded. You, for example, right-click on the context menu, and it gives you access to the sharing options. Everything feels snappy and responsive, and I'm also super happy with how Microsoft has improved the web interface over the past few years. I can see they made a good investment as it feels modern and it feels really responsive. If you're using Office Online, you'll notice that it's easy and seamless. You can edit documents with virtually no lag. It's buttery smooth. Yeah, very similar, I would say, to Google Docs. And the same thing goes for the mobile apps. Not quite as polished as Google's, in my opinion, but still very good. And I don't want to spend too long covering all the little differences between Google and Microsoft here, because I have a video directly comparing the two at length. So click the link up above here or in the description box below if you want to know more about those providers. But OneDrive, yeah, obviously isn't perfect. And let me just get this out of the way now. Working with OneDrive on anything other than a Windows PC isn't really great. I'm a Mac user, and the Mac user experience is okay. But for one reason or another, it's like way less defined than the Windows experience, right? And that direct integration with File Explorer just isn't there for the Finder on the Mac. Let me put it like this. OneDrive feels like it was designed by someone who's only ever seen a Macintosh in a TV commercial. Technically, it works much in the same way that a bicycle with square wheels technically moves forward. Well, will it get you there? I guess eventually. Will it be pleasant? Now, absolutely not. And, okay, Linux users, I feel a bit sorry for you because you're basically left with web-only access. So if you're using several operating systems, OneDrive is a bit frustrating because the experience varies so much depending on the device that you're using. Dropbox, on the other hand, is super consistent across platforms. Since I started using it years ago, there haven't been any dramatic changes to the interface. I do like the stability as it helps me and my team save a lot of time. And it doesn't really matter where my team works or what system they use. Plus, Dropbox's desktop apps are rock solid. They run quietly in the background, they don't demand your attention constantly, and they do the thing they are supposed to do very well. I also like how the web interface is clean and fast. So check out the file previews. I open a picture, they load super quickly, and I can share it easily with anyone I want to. File organization, as I said in the beginning, is very intuitive, and everything works on mobile. There are like some nice touches, like automatic photo backup, which works without draining a battery, but it's also nothing, I would say, really special in the cloud storage world. So, are there any downsides to using Dropbox day to day? For me, it feels somewhat dated compared to other modern interfaces like Google or OneDrive. The feature set is also a bit more limited, and I do wish I had some more advanced options that other platforms like Sync.com have, like a dedicated place where I can archive old data or notifications for when someone downloads a shared file. You know what doesn't have a downside? Subscribing to our newsletter. Ha! It's a great way to stay up to date with all the latest tech news and stories, especially the ones that don't hit the mainstream news. I'll leave a link in the description below so you can sign up right away. So, who wins in my day-to-day use category? It's really tight across all three providers, but for me, Google takes the win here. It just has the most intelligent features and it works the best across several operating systems. But OneDrive is really just a hair's breadth behind, especially if you are on Windows. Dropbox is third here, but scores highest for reliability and consistency across different devices. Security and privacy. Now, this is where things get really interesting and frankly a bit concerning depending on which service you're using. Let's start with the big red writing on the wall. None of these services offer true end-to-end encryption for your files. And let me put it in terms that'll keep you maybe up at night. Google, Microsoft, and Dropbox can all technically read your files, right? That fan fiction you've been working on, they could read it. That business plan, they could read it. Those photos from Vegas, yep, they are visible and readable. And they're probably being used for training AI purposes. Now, they say they don't just sit around reading your stuff for fun, and I mostly believe them because honestly, who has the time? But technically they could. And this is a fundamental limitation that privacy-conscious users need to understand going in. That said, let's look at how each service handles security within these constraints. There's one exception that I need to mention here, which is that Dropbox did launch end-to-end encryption last year, but only for the two most expensive business plans, the Advanced and the Enterprise plan. All three services use AES 256-bit encryption for data at rest and TLS encryption for data in transit. These are like industry standard protocols that provide strong protections against external threats. Google's privacy policy is where things get a little bit murky. Google explicitly states that it scans your files for various purposes, including improving its services and complying with copyright takedowns. While they claim the scanning is automated and not done by humans, the fact remains that your private documents are being analyzed by Google's algorithms. I figured Google was invasive with your privacy, but this literally left me floored. If this is also a total red flag for you, please leave a comment below and let's get the discussion started because I totally get why. I do like that Google is pretty clean when it comes to data breaches. There haven't been any major incidents that exposed your files, but in 2017, there was an incident where Google Docs were accidentally shared with unauthorized users. And to be honest, OneDrive isn't much better. There is no client-side encryption, so Microsoft can just scan and read the contents of your files, and they even admit doing so to prevent illegal content and copyright infringement. Well, at least someone's gonna read my novel, even if it's just to make sure I didn't plagiarize it, right? I mentioned earlier that Microsoft has this cool feature called Personal Vault. It's great because it adds an extra layer of security with additional authentication step. But unfortunately, the Personal Vault doesn't make your files totally private. It's really just more about security than privacy because, as you can see here, it doesn't add end-to-end encryption when you move files into your Personal Vault. But it's better than nothing, I suppose. Maybe you've seen this in the news about OneDrive. There was an issue where files were accessible via web links, which can lead to exposing information that you really don't want out there. It's not great, but let's be real here. No online company is immune to cybercrime. I mean, let's just look at Dropbox as an example. Okay, well, hold my beer here because Dropbox has a troublesome history. They've experienced several significant data breaches, and more than just a handful of times. There was one in 2012, which exposed 68 million user accounts. And then in 2024, there was a breach of their Dropbox sign infrastructure. And those are just the higher profile ones. And with Dropbox, the next data breach doesn't feel, to me, like an if, so much as like a when it will happen. To their credit, they've seriously leveled up security since then. Getting hacked multiple times is apparently a great motivator for actually fixing your security. So congrats, Dropbox, I guess. They've now added some advanced security features like end-to-end encryption, but you gotta update to their top-tier business plan to get it. At least it's more than what Microsoft or Google offers. Now, I don't want to bore you with too many details on our in-depth privacy policy analysis because we recently did a video on that on the channel, so make sure to check that out if you really want to dig into the privacy policies of a lot of the cloud storage providers. Now, the language in Dropbox's policy isn't as broad as Google's when it comes to file scanning, but they will still analyze metadata for service improvements, and they're obviously subject to the same law enforcement because of their servers that are stored in the USA. So for me, it's kind of hard to decide because it's like choosing which dumpster fire to stand next to. They're all pretty terrible if you ask me. It pains me a bit to declare the winner in this category, but I will say that for me, it's probably OneDrive by a narrow margin. They are a bit more, dare I say, privacy respecting, if that's a thing. They've had fewer security incidents, which is a feather in their cap. And Google Drive, I would put it second because of its excellent infrastructure security, and Dropbox probably third because of their history of nasty security breaches. If you're now saying, my gosh, Mauricio, that all sounds terrible, there has to be a better way. Well, I'm here to assure you there is. I've been running this channel for over 12 years, and during that time, we've published numerous videos about the most secure cloud storage services, and I'll share links to them in the description box below, and you can click this link at the top here to watch my recent one. Make sure to check that out if security, and especially cloud security, is your number one concern. Okay. Security and privacy was the last chapter. Now we come to my favorite one, which is performance and speed. Because honestly, nothing kills your team's focus like waiting around for files to sync or download. Over the years, my team and I have conducted extensive speed tests on dozens of cloud storage services, and we update that data frequently with real-world performance tests rather than just theoretical numbers. And you can click in the description box below to get to our cloud storage speed testing page, where you can see how each individual service performs in terms of speed. But I will also cover it now in this video. So here it goes. My testing environment uses a Windows virtual machine in Dublin with a 1 gigabit per second connection. I uploaded and downloaded 5 gigabytes of mixed file types. Now, everything from tiny text documents to massive video files of 15-20 gigs, right? That's for the big part. Obviously, in the testing folder of 5 gigabyte, there have been maybe 1 or 2 gigabyte in size. First, I use a throttle connection to 100 megabits per second for stability, just to get a good baseline. And then I use the full gigabit connection for maximum performance. Google Drive delivered impressive and consistent performance results in my tests. The average upload time was 6 minutes and 59 seconds. Downloads finished in just 7 minutes and 12 seconds. I was literally blown away by the consistency. Google Drive maintained steady speeds throughout the test without the dramatic slowdowns that some services experience with larger files. And part of this is that Google uses multiple threads to handle different files simultaneously. Google Drive attacks smaller files first and saves larger files for last, which means you can start working with most of your content before the entire sync is complete. On the unrestricted 1 gigabit per second connection, Google Drive, I would say, disappointed me. Both uploads and downloads were like a bit faster, coming at 5 minutes and 1 second and 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Given that Google basically is the internet, I expected it to absolutely demolish this test. I mean, they have servers in every country, cables under every ocean, and a data center on the moon for all I know. So when it came in third place on the unthrottled test, well, I felt personally a bit betrayed. It's like expecting to see a bullet train speed by, but instead you get a choo-choo train lumbering on the tracks. Okay, I may be overreacting a bit here, but I think you get the idea. Okay. OneDrive, let's see what you can do. On my throttle connection, it was slightly behind Google Drive. Upload times averaged 7 minutes and 20 seconds, and downloads took 7 minutes and 18 seconds. With OneDrive, you get block level sync, and that means it uploads only the parts of files that have changed rather than re-uploading the entire thing. So if you are working with huge presentations or spreadsheets and you only change like a slide or two or exchange an image, just that small part gets uploaded instead of the whole thing, which obviously speeds up syncing quite a lot. On the full speed connection, OneDrive maintained a stable 30 megabyte per second most of the time, but it took a few seconds to reach that peak speed. The sync behavior varies depending on file types and sizes. So sometimes it uses 2 threads, sometimes 6, apparently adapting to the content being transferred. The upload speed increased to 2 minutes and 57 seconds, and the download speed 4 minutes and 15 seconds. It's better than Google Drive, but still a bit short of what I'd expect from these massive tech giants. Dropbox turned in the most surprising performance results. While the basic sync times were similar to the others, around 7 minutes and 21 seconds for uploads and 7 minutes and 20 seconds for downloads, the experience felt different. Dropbox built up speed quickly and maintained it pretty consistently throughout the transfer. So if you're uploading a lot of large data, I have some really good news for you. Dropbox's desktop app remained incredibly responsive and worked normally while massive uploads happened in the background. But what happens if your internet fails? When I deliberately yanked out the network cable from my router to disconnect all my devices, Dropbox obviously stopped working, but when I connected it again, it resumed exactly where it left off without any file corruption or restart penalties. On the unrestricted connection, now back on the server again that I'm using for testing purposes, Dropbox peaked briefly at around 55 megabytes per second with sustained speeds around 30 to 35 megabytes per second. The consistency was remarkable. Very few drops in speeds and pretty smooth performance across all file types. I wasn't expecting this, but still Dropbox fell in between the two other providers with unthrottled speeds. Uploads averaged 4 minutes and 20 seconds, while downloads were a bit faster at 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Faster than Google Drive, but slower than OneDrive. Dropbox coming in second genuinely shocked me. This is a company that charges premium prices and offers 2 gigabytes of free storage like it's 2008. And I was ready to roast them. But credit where it's due, they are fast, they are smooth, and the desktop app just worked flawlessly. Boringly even, which is exactly what you want when you're trying to get actual work done. Okay, here's the thing. Performance will vary significantly based on your internet connection, right? Your locations and the files you're working with, they could vary vastly in terms of how fast you can upload and download files to Dropbox or any other cloud storage services. Based on my experience and the experience of my team, I don't think you're going to notice any dramatic difference in day-to-day use between any of these providers. These numbers that we're publishing here, it's just so that we can really get a proper ranking and compare them objectively. Honestly, calling a winner here is a bit tricky. When I throttled my connection, all 3 services were basically in a 3-way tie. Nothing really stood out, but give them full speed, and OneDrive just obliterates the other 2. So we're talking Google Drive getting absolutely demolished with Dropbox trailing a little bit behind in second. Finally, let's talk monies, right? Because even the best cloud storage isn't worth it if it empties your wallet, right? Now, I'm going to show you the numbers here on the screen, but go ahead and explore the pricing by clicking on one of the providers in the links below. Google Drive gives you 15 gigabytes for free, which sounds generous until you realize it's really shared across Gmail, Photos, and Drive. Are you like a super heavy email user with bazillion attachments? Well, that 15 gigabytes fills up pretty quickly, right? Paid plans start at $2 per month for 100 gigs, with AI Gemini options kicking in at $20 a month. For businesses, Google Workspace starts at $6 per users monthly with 30 gigabytes pooled storage. And yeah, pooled, meaning your whole team shares that pot. Business Standard bumps you to $12 per month with 2 terabytes pooled per user. And Business Plus hits $18 a month for 5 terabytes. And Google just shoved Gemini AI into all of these plans in early 2025 and hiked the prices again. So now you're paying for AI whether you want it or not. Nothing says customer first quite like forcing everyone to subsidize features they really didn't ask for, right? OneDrive offers a measly 5 gigabytes for free. Their basic plan costs $20 yearly for 100 gigabytes with ad-free Outlook. The personal, $100 a year, and the family, $130 a year. Both include 1 terabyte Copilot AI and the full Office suite, which honestly makes them a solid deal if you need Microsoft's apps anyway. Now, business plans start at $6 a month per user with 1 terabyte each, actually per person, not pooled like Google set up. Business Standard costs $12.50 a month, adds the full desktop Office apps to it, and hits the sweet spot for most companies, in my opinion. Business Premium, $22 a month, throws in security features, and enterprise costs $36 a month, which is for like bigger organizations, obviously. Okay, Dropbox gives you 2 gigabytes for free. 2 gigabytes. That's less than a USB stick from like 2010. It's like inviting someone to dinner and serving 3 grapes. Sure, technically you provided food, but come on. Seriously? Anyway, I could go on and on about the 2 gigs. Paid plans start at $10 a month for 2 terabytes. Professional costs $70 per month for 3 terabytes. And business plans range from like $15 to $24 per user per month, depending on your storage needs. Now, ecosystem bundles here, well, you are paying purely for storage, right? And honestly, Dropbox takes the crown for most expensive of the bunch, right? And if that's worth it to you, yeah, go ahead and check it out. So, in my opinion, what's the best for money? Well, I've invested in Google Drive, and my team uses Google Drive and pretty much loves it. But if you're already invested in the Microsoft ecosystem, obviously it's going to be completely different for you. It's going to be a completely different deal. So basically, check out which one fits best in your current scenario, but you can probably, and you should probably hedge your bets. You can use multiple cloud storage services at the same time. You don't need the highest tier. For example, you can combine a free Google Drive account with Dropbox if you need fancy integrations, but you love the flexibility of Google Sheets in your business. And then you can sign up for pCloud Lifetime, for example, get another 10 terabytes for your bigger archive if you like, because pCloud several times per year has interesting promotions, especially around their lifetime plans, and you can check out more videos in the channel as well. But since you're watching a comparison video, here is my tier list for you. Google Drive wins value for money easily. It has a generous free tier, paid plans are competitive, and the features are pretty much unbeatable. OneDrive is for me second, but only if you're using Microsoft and your company or your personal life really depends on the Microsoft ecosystem. And Dropbox is kind of expensive. It has a stingy free plan that we just covered, but managing files gives you like so much freedom and flexibility. After now weeks of testing, here is my verdict. Google Drive wins, but it's closer than you'd think. Google Drive is the dependable workhorse. Nothing flashy, just consistent results across the board, best search functionality, generous free storage, strong collaboration, very important for teams and businesses, right? It's perfect if you want one service that won't let you down and you're fine with sometimes Google peeking at your files. OneDrive wins if you like already living in the Microsoft world. The Windows integration is seamless, and bundling it with Microsoft 365 makes it a killer deal for businesses. And Dropbox is really the specialist. It doesn't win on features or price, but file sync reliability, I would say unmatched. And for creative professionals or anyone who obsesses over file organization, Dropbox justifies the premium that you're paying. So, quick recommendations. Google Drive for frequent collaborators and obviously Gmail users. OneDrive for Windows and Office devotees. And Dropbox for creatives handling large media files who need rock-solid file synchronization. Okay, the cloud storage game keeps evolving, so revisit your choice as your needs change. And revisit our channel to just get updated on the latest and greatest on cloud storage and online security. If you made it this far, you're either really into cloud storage or just procrastinating really hard on whatever it is you need to be doing. Either way, I appreciate you. Drop a comment and tell me which one you use and whether I'm like completely off base. I can handle it. Probably. If this video saved you from accidentally handing your files to an AI training program, hit that like button and subscribe. So see you next time when I overthink something else you didn't know that really mattered to you. See you later. Bye.